What's up, everybody? Welcome aboard to Bubba's Bottom Line. Todd Bubba Horwitz here with you as our weekly podcast starts. And of course, just a reminder, starting on Monday, we will have a daily 5-minute recap of markets. Every day around 5 Eastern time, you'll get an update that you can check out and see what we saw during the markets. But as we take a look at last week's action, what did we see? We saw a continuation of what we'll call a whole bunch of nothing. All right, we had a market that really just is vacillating and churning. The S&P now looks like it's been in a range for about 12 weeks. The Nasdaq's been in a range for about 10 weeks. The Dow, they've all just been in this what we call wide sweeping consolidation, wide sweeping congestion. Not a lot going on. Not a lot of commitment to either from the buyers or the sellers. And of course, one of the things that we do know is that markets spend about 65% of the time doing just this. They just don't usually do it for this amount of an extended period of time, especially when there's such a major battle going on between the bulls and the bears. And what you have now is you've got still the what we would call the late money coming in to buy. We still have the retail traders trying to get in, and we have a lot of the professionals now trying to sell the market. So you've got this standstill, and of course the markets, as we continue to say, are waiting for a reason to sell off. What's the reason going to be? Obviously nobody knows. That's the $1 question. It's certainly right now not North Korea. It's certainly right now not obviously the hurricanes, and my condolences and thoughts and prayers go out to both Harvey and Irma and now Jose. It's obviously very tough. And of course, we've seen a tremendous amount of damage, but obviously the biggest damage is always lost life, and that becomes very sad when we look at it. But again, this is part of where we are and what we do. And we can't help natural disasters, and hopefully people will heed the advice of the authorities to skip town, and some do and some don't, and hey, that's the way it goes. But we've got markets that continue just to kind of churn. I think some of the interesting things to take a look at, though, is we've got oil continuing to work its way lower, and once again on Friday got cracked. And again, this is all in the face of Aramco, of Saudi Arabia, of OPEC trying to get prices to go higher. So what does that tell you? Okay, it tells you that we're probably not going a lot higher. When every sign points to you should be buying, and I think that's what we're seeing. I think the oil markets are overdone to the long side. I think you see selling, and I think the selling's only going to get worse. We put about a $40 target on oil about 6 months ago. We did originally get down to 42 before rallying again. And again, we're going to use it. We're going to continue to watch for that same $40 target. Now, I think something interesting that's also happening now is China is trying to get rid of fossil fuels. Now, of course, it makes sense in China because of obviously the major traffic that they have there. It also makes sense because I'm sure they have the technology that they can now put together these electric cars. It does a lot for everybody there, and of course, getting rid of fossil fuel. Well, if you take away one of the number one consumers of fossil fuels, what do you have? You've got even less of a demand. Now, we've still got this overall supply, too much supply, not enough demand, and this is globally. So when I continue to hear the pundits and the experts tell me how good the economy is and how great we're growing, I go, okay, please help me and tell me where that's coming from. Again, I can't see it. Maybe I'm slow, maybe I don't understand, but I don't understand when you have less full-time jobs, when you're offering less benefits, and when you have less new money coming into individual businesses to rebuild small business, you don't see growth. So where is this magical growth coming from? I don't know. I certainly wish that I had the answer, but I don't. I do know that for most of the country, we are still deeply downridden into a major recession with no hope of getting out. Okay, the Fed will not let us out. There is no hope that we're going to see anything better yet. Now, again, when you will continue to allow companies to give you phony balance sheets that are really built on contraction, all right, and are really built on that whole socialism platform of what the Federal Reserve wanted to build way back when, I think you're seeing the results of this. You're just seeing the Trish Regan uses this a lot, and I'm sure others do as well, but what we call the hourglass economy on the top and at the bottom, but the real people that need all these things, okay, aren't getting them. Now, it's a tragedy when the middle class is not getting their share, because at the end of the day, we have said this at least 100 times, that the middle class builds the economy, okay? The middle class creates growth. Without the middle class, you got nothing. You got gots and goo. Think about it this way, okay? The rich, they're going to buy and do what they do anyways. It doesn't matter. Anybody who's truly rich, and I'm not thinking about paper rich, I'm not talking about the guys that, have that piece of paper that shows that they're rich. I'm talking about guys that have real wealth. Guys and gals, excuse me, in case if I want to be politically correct. But if we talk about that, what do we have? Okay, they're going to go out and buy cars. They're going to buy apartments. In fact, they're going to benefit when times aren't as good because prices come down and their money doesn't come down. The entitled and the poor, they're going to live the same lifestyle as well. Now, the middle class, again, this is why we see the retail industry dying. This is why we see all these problems around, is because the middle class don't have the money to spend. The middle class don't have the opportunities. The middle class don't have insurance. The middle class don't have jobs. So we're not seeing that growth spike that can actually push the economy forward. We have the continuation of the garbage out of Washington, which is totally ridiculous, all right, and the garbage out of the Fed. And of course, we heard that Fisher is going to step down, okay, and why is he going to step down? That I don't hold the respect and high regard. That I believe that there's a lot of problems, and we go back to the Fed official that was passing out information ahead of time to hedge funds, allowing them to front run the tape. So as far as I'm concerned, they should disband the Fed. I think that's more of the proper way to go. We can't continue to see these dollars printed. We can't continue to see the destruction of our dollar. Now, again, I've said this before. I don't quite understand how it is that a weaker U.S. dollar gives us stronger exports and is good for us. I believe that what they've done is they've systematically destroyed the value of the dollar in my pocket, all right, and cut the value down. And so what good does that do me? All right, now, it's amazing when I go out, it's like I go, maybe I'm way behind the times, because every time I go out to a restaurant or I go out and buy something, I go, geez, I may just have to go lock myself in the house because I'm not paying these prices. I don't get it, all right? To me, it's a total joke. But this is what you get when you have a Federal Reserve and you have a government that continues to want to expand money. And really what they're doing is they're taking away our money. This is the same thing with this debt ceiling. Now, I don't know how to restructure it the proper way. But what I do know is that the problems in Houston and the upcoming problems in Miami and Florida and whatever's going to happen from Jose, those people need to be bailed out by the government. I get that part, and I'm not against it, all right? But it should be done without the debt ceiling. The raising of the debt ceiling is the stealing from the American people. Because again, if you don't understand that you are paying for what they're doing, Okay, they're not paying for it. Nobody else is. This money isn't magically appearing. We didn't go to Jack and the Beanstalk and get some magic beans of money that we can plant. The middle class is paying for what's going to happen, for the money that they're raising the debt ceiling. You and I are paying for it. Now, you can look at it any way you want. You can say it's the greatest thing ever, but at the end of the day, it's coming out of your pocket. So do you want to continue to subsidize a broken down government, a bunch of idiots that could care less, that we now see Donald Trump met with Pelosi and Schumer to extend the debt ceiling for another 3 months? Okay, the people that here's people, and this is the problem with politics. This is the problem with the entire situation. He said, here these people are the ones that called him these names, the ones that want to impeach him, yet they're sitting in the same room and they make a deal. Now, there ain't something wrong with that, all right? Because the deals are being made with our money. Now, we'll talk about this later because this is more of my commentary piece. But just keep that in mind where we started with here. The debt ceiling itself is a joke, all right? Because we know that they were going to raise it. There was never ever a doubt. I had begged and hoped that Trump would shut the government down. Now, again, I do understand, because of what happened in Texas and what happened in Florida and what's going to happen, that it may not be the best thing, okay? Because obviously I don't want to see those people tortured and penalized because of it. But I do believe that the spending is a joke. I do believe that the entire system is flawed and broken down. I do believe that they're actually more criminal than they are in my favor in Washington, okay? But in the meantime, we're going to step out here for a break. This is Bubba's Bottom Line, Todd Bubba Horwitz, and make sure you catch the Bubba Show every single day at libertytalk.fm, 2 to 3 Eastern Time. And remember that we're going to start on Monday a quick 5-minute recap of the markets, anything news that's happening, that will be available every day at bubbatrading.com. In the meantime, we're going to step out here for a break. Bubba's Bottom Line. We'll be right back with more after the break. Welcome back to Bubba's Bottom Line. Todd Bubba Horwitz with you. And of course, love being here. Love talking to you, even though it's through the camera lens. But what's up, everybody? So, just a quick note. Stephen Colbert, moron. When is enough? Okay? When do we stop debating how bad Donald Trump is as a president, which I don't think he's bad. I think he's been good. But when does it stop? When do we decide that it's time to actually work on making America better than continuing to now use the Nazi salute? I mean, is this guy a moron or what? Are we going to continue to have this be acceptable? I don't believe that it should be acceptable. I believe that that something should be done. I understand the freedom of speech, but I still see the senator in Missouri who has not been unseated and who has not been thrown out in something that I thought was actually a criminal act. But again, we won't get too much in that, but I mean, Stephen, come on, what are you, nuts? Is this really the venue that we want to go to? Do we really want to create another civil war, okay, or a revolutionary war here again? Instead of figuring out ways to make it better, we've got people that are pushing it to make it worse. Why? God only knows. I didn't even want to get into what it is, but look what's happening with the technology. Now, obviously, I'm not a big fan of technology. I know it's a necessity. I know we all carry iPhones or, whatever. We all carry, computers that were powerful enough to launch one of the Apollo rockets when they first started. But here's my point, okay? And we have another major breach with Equifax. Now, again, those of you that are affected, it's going to be a disaster. It's going to be ugly. You're going to get a lot of crap going on. And again, who's going to actually end up being responsible for this when it's all said and done? You tie that into that 3 of the Equifax board members or upper management sold a big portion of their stock after this had happened before the public knew about it. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. I mean, really? Okay. Now, I'm sure it was innocent. Right. Okay. I don't know. I'm not accusing. I'm just saying. Okay. How do they magically sell their stock before anybody knew about the crisis? It's the same question I asked back to February 11th through 16th, 2016. How did Jamie Dimon know to buy the bottom of the market? How did he know that the market's going to be the absolute dead bottom on that day? How did he know that Janet Yellen was going to call Campbell and Draghi and talk about things? You know, I go, I don't know. All right. But again, this breach of your information. You know, obviously our Social Security number is so valuable, and it's so valuable to so many of the illegals out there because they use them, they grab them, and they do all kinds of things. So now, all right, you've got a situation, and it's going to be an ugly situation. Now, as we look forward into what may happen in the next couple of weeks in the markets, I'm assuming that the markets will stay in this channel, this wide sweeping congestion until they break up or out or down. I believe they will break down. I believe that you've got, you know, more reason to believe that we'll go lower. But I also think that, again, we're not going to fight it. We're not going to say that it's got to go down. But I do believe you've got a lot more reason to go lower than you have to go higher. But I think, again, the markets are waiting for information. Now, it won't be the hurricanes, I don't believe. We know that some of the insurers are going to get slaughtered. But we also know that they also have a lot of reserves because we haven't had these disasters for a while. So done properly, they should have their reserves. But you have to look at it now. Again, I'm not looking at this. I'm looking at this purely from business. Okay, we're gonna have to rebuild. Okay, so is that good for the economy? Probably. So that should be good for the local economies, that they're gonna have to be rebuilt. You know, homes, buildings, roads, the whole thing. New car sales. A lot of things are gonna have to be done. So that could stimulate some of the economy. So again, I don't say that, you know, it's not good news, and certainly, but I don't think it's the news that's going to drive the markets lower. I guess that's my point. It's still something that I think will be totally out of left field, and it may be our buddy Kim Jong-un, okay, from North Korea. Now, again, this weekend they're supposed to potentially launch another missile in celebration of, I don't know, their 49th year of being schmucks. I don't know. But I think there's something very important that we haven't heard much about yet, and that is China warns Trump that if we go first, they will back North Korea 100%. Now, to me, that's pretty much of an ultimatum. To me, I think that tells you where China stands. To me, I think we do need to strike first. To me, I think we need to destroy and wipe out Kim Jong-un, who you probably won't be able to find him. This will be like trying to find where's Waldo, and it'll be probably the findings of Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein. But I think this one is different. Okay, I believe that bin Laden was good to get because he was the mastermind and he was basically a gangster criminal. Hussein was not a good one to get because he kept those gangsters and criminals in check. This guy, I think, you know, if you've ever seen any pictures or anything from over there, everybody in North Korea looks like they're anorexic. It looks like they don't get enough food. And I don't know that they like communist rule. Now that I don't know. I don't know if it would change. But I believe that we cannot take the chance to let Mr. Kim Jong-un continue his run over everything and start to keep threatening what's going to happen in the United States. So China or no China, if China wants to play this card, we'll call it the Trump card. Okay, if they want to play this card, I think that shows you that they're really not any type of an ally to begin with. And again, I'm not a military person. I don't understand all the inner workings, but from just a straight out look, I say we go in and take North Korea down right now. That's what I say. Now, again, it doesn't make me right, but I'm not. I'm more concerned, okay, because if China is not going to help, my whole point, and I wrote about this last week, China needs to step up. They didn't step up, now they stepped down. They chose the side that they want to be on. All right. So if we, North Korea, and what are we going to wait for? A bomb to hit us or to hit Guam? Or are we going to take care of it now? Okay. So they've already struck as far as I'm concerned. All right. Now, again, China may not look at it that way. I'm not really telling you they should or they shouldn't. But I believe they've already struck. Their actions have said that they're going to strike. So now, that could be so-called the black swan that may appear in this market. And again, we may not have one for a long time. Okay. What we do have is we have the middle class is still in a recession. What we do have is the middle class is still not working. What we do have is a big loss of full-time jobs. So Donald Trump, again, I love you. I'm glad you're the president, but you can't talk about things that don't make sense, all right? You're losing jobs. Right? You can brag about how many you're bringing, you're losing a lot of jobs. Now, again, that's not totally your fault, but I think one of the mistakes we make as Americans, it's like the quarterback. It's always the quarterback's problem in football. It's always the president. It's his fault that everything is either going good or going bad. Now, again, Barack Obama, I give him no credit for the rally in the stock market. All right, just like if the market would have kept going, I wouldn't have blamed him. Donald Trump, the market's going to probably sell off within your administration. I don't blame you for when it sells off. I think more importantly, we need to put things in real perspective. And real perspective is to stop spending money that we don't have. Real perspective is to get into some of the real serious things, like taking care of the pension programs throughout the globe, or not throughout the globe, but throughout the United States, because those are in major serious trouble. They're going to need a lot of help, all right? And there's going to be a lot of people coming off the payrolls into their pensions, and there's not going to be enough money. We need to change a lot of the entitlement programs, okay? We need to change term limits. There's a lot of things we need to do that we're not doing. And this is where, again, I think the bigger problem shows up is when are we going to get these things done and how are we going to handle these problems? This is more what you should be focusing on, President Trump, and not how many jobs you may or may not created, because you'll lose the battle of how many jobs you created. We have not created a ton of jobs, okay? You can talk, I don't like when you talk about the stock market, because the stock market is not up because we got the rally because you're president, but the markets had already rallied, okay? We're going up because basically there's no place else to go. There's still the ever-chased for yield. The 10-year notes now, they're probably going to go sub 2% here again. The 30, think about this, 30-year money you can get for about 2.6%, okay? These are problems. These are indications that the economy is in trouble. Why don't we see this? But of course, when you have idiotic economists and the Federal Reserve all sitting together in a room together, what are they going to get done? Their objective will be, how are we going to screw the American people and get them to pay for these problems? This is really more what you have. Okay, you can think about it all you want, all right? And lastly, before we get to our opinion, the cryptocurrencies. You don't think now that the cryptocurrencies are now a real player in this world? Right, China bashed down some laws. Of course, what happened? Bitcoin broke down, and then of course it rallied back again. You're now seeing a real move towards a lot of these cryptocurrencies. You know why? Because everybody's tired of getting screwed by the Fed and by the central banking systems around the globe. Because people know that, somebody had mentioned to me on my radio show, I go out of town, if I want to bring more than 10,000, I got to declare. Well, if you're bringing more than 10,000 in crypto, nobody knows about it, all right? The blockchain technology, as I've said all along, that was the one thing I knew worked, is really fascinating. And I think that the crypto world is going to be part of it. I think this is one of the worries that the Fed and banking system in general have, is they're going to lose their edge of scamming money away from the average American. in our case, and then in the Europe's case from the ECB, they're losing their edge of the scam. They're losing the edge of the potential tax that they can create. And I think that it's going to be very viable, and I wish I would have caught it earlier. Again, I'm not telling you to run out and buy it, but I think that now it's a viable alternative in which initially I did not agree with it. But I understand the technology and knowing that Russia and China use it regularly, the blockchain technology, knowing that Russia and China are now trading gold for oil through blockchain technology, and knowing that China is now going to ignore basically the petrodollar and now benchmark oil against the Chinese yuan, the most manipulated currency, next to the rest. All right. So again, a lot of things to think about here. We're going to step out here for a break, and we're going to come back with my opinion piece. This is Bubba's Bottom Line, and make sure you get the Bubba Show every day at libertytalk.fm between 2 and 3 Eastern. You can listen to me on the radio, and we're going to step out here and come right back with more after the break. Bubba's Bottom Line. Welcome back to Bubba's Bottom Line. Todd Bubba Horwitz with you, and obviously I always save my opinion for last. And first, though, it is football season, so let's go get them. We had to lose the other night on Kansas City. On New England. Kansas City kicked the crap out of them. But in the meantime, all right, so let's talk about this debt ceiling. The biggest hoax, which ties into the biggest Ponzi scheme in history, all right? The legalized Ponzi scheme. People go to jail for less than what the Federal Reserve and the government are doing when they raise the debt ceiling and continue to allow it to happen. Now, I've said this earlier, I understand what we need to do, but there are other ways to raise the money for Houston, Miami, and wherever Jose's going to end up with, instead of raising the debt ceiling, because again, one thing that most don't understand is that the middle class pays for all the frivolous activities that are taken care of in the government. Now again, Harvey and Irma is not frivolous. That it needs to be done, okay? But there's going to be a lot of damage there, and there's going to be a lot of problems. And there should be a way to bring the money to them without bringing it into the debt ceiling. And that's my problem. The debt ceiling, all that is taking away my money and your money and making you worth less, because now you're going to have to work harder to buy the same thing. All right? You take a new car. All right? A new car today is, let's say $40,000. All right? With what they're going to do to the dollar, that same new car is going to cost you $45,000. Not good. There has to be a resolution to not be able to raise the debt ceiling, to make Congress and the Senate and the overall government to have to stand by a budget. All right? We have to start paying this back. We can no longer kick the can down the road and hope that the next generation pays for the debt that we are creating today. It means we have to step up and raise the age on Social Security. It means we have to stop funding all the illegals. And I know we had DACA this week, and again, those that were brought here as babies, there's nothing you can do. I wouldn't even think about taking them out of this country. They've never been anywhere else. All right? But you've got to stop bringing new in. You've got to now take care of, for example, in the state of California, I think about 25% of their entire money goes to taking care of illegals. Now, again, I don't get that part of it. I don't believe that should be our responsibility. I think that we've got to get there and do what we would call some forensic accounting throughout the entire government, throughout the globe, throughout our globe, our scope, and cut the fat of all the waste. There's no bigger waste in the Senate and the Congress, but that fat we're not going to cut so fast. But there is so much fat out there that needs to be cut. And nobody's ever really taken the time to do that. And all we do is say, okay, well, let's raise the debt ceiling, because what happens is Schumer and Pelosi and McConnell sit there having a scotch and a cigar saying, okay, let's screw the American people once again. We'll raise the debt ceiling. They're going to pay for it. We're not. So what difference does it make? That's the issue. We need to get back to zero debt and a surplus instead of 20 trillion and going higher. And I assure you that there's more out there because of the underfunded Social Security and because of many of the underfunded programs. The national debt is actually bigger, but on paper today, it's whatever, 19, 20 trillion. But it's mere bagatelle. Anyways, we've got to take care of this debt ceiling. Again, we can't continue to add to it. Understood, Houston, Miami needs to be taken care of. I'm down, I'm in, and I'm happy to share. And I'm happy to help pay for that. But what I'm not happy to pay for is the rest of the BS that goes on in Washington. And after this, when they meet in December, there better not be any stupid bill tied to this debt ceiling raise. And hopefully they won't raise the debt ceiling. If they have to shut down part of the government, shut it down, because it's a waste of time and a waste of money anyways. That's it for today. This is Bubba's Bottom Line, Todd Bubba Horwitz. Make sure you get the radio show every day, The Bubba Show, 2 o'clock to 3 Eastern every day at libertytalk.fm. Make sure that you check out Bubba's Bottom Line every single day, 5 minutes every day. We'll be back next week. Have a great week. Thank you so much. Enjoy football. We'll see you later, everybody. Bubba's Bottom Line.